The F-35 was built to win the first days of a war. Stealth shaping, sensor fusion, networked dominance across air, land, and sea. Nearly 1,000 aircraft delivered, around 150 produced per year at peak tempo, a global fleet spread across the United States, Europe, and the Indo-Pacific. On paper, it is the most integrated combat aircraft system ever fielded. But modern war does not end in the first week. If production averages roughly a dozen aircraft per month, if mission-capable rates hover around the mid-50% range in peacetime, if each flight hour demands dozens of maintenance hours behind it, what happens in month 4? What happens when engines queue for depot repair, when spare parts pools tighten across multiple Allied air forces, when replacement tempo cannot mathematically keep pace with steady attrition? Because a 6-month war does not test stealth geometry, it tests throughput. It tests whether 150 aircraft per year is depth or a ceiling. It tests whether an $80 to $100 million airframe is scalable under pressure or strategically finite. The F-35 was engineered for contested airspace, but a prolonged war can test something else entirely: industrial elasticity. The real question is not whether the F-35 can penetrate advanced air defenses. The real question is whether it can still generate combat power in month 6, when maintenance hours accumulate faster than aircraft are replaced, and readiness rates become more decisive than radar cross-section. Because in modern air warfare, survivability is immediate, sustainability is structural, and structure is what breaks first when pressure lasts longer than planned. To understand whether the F-35 can sustain a 6-month war, we first have to understand what it was built to do. The aircraft was designed as a 5th-generation multi-role platform capable of penetrating contested airspace on the first days of a high-end conflict. Its stealth shaping reduces detection range. Its sensor fusion integrates radar, infrared search and track, electronic surveillance, and off-board data into a single pilot interface. Its architecture assumes integration across services and across alliances. This is not just a fighter, it is a node inside a distributed combat network. More than 950 aircraft have now been delivered globally. The United States operates the largest share, but the fleet also spans Europe and the Indo-Pacific through NATO members and security partners. Annual production in recent stable years has approached roughly 140 to 156 aircraft. On paper, that creates scale. But scale in inventory is not the same as scale in endurance. The program's projected lifetime sustainment cost for the United States alone has been estimated in the range of $1.3 to $1.7 trillion. That figure does not describe performance, it describes structural commitment. It reflects the reality that the F-35 is as much a logistics system as it is a combat aircraft. Mission-capable rates for the U.S. fleet have historically hovered around the mid-50% range, with targets set higher. That means that even before combat stress, a significant portion of the fleet is unavailable at any given moment due to maintenance cycles, part shortages, or scheduled upgrades. In peacetime, that is manageable. In a 6-month war, it becomes arithmetic. If roughly half to 60% of the fleet is mission-capable under normal conditions, the effective combat-ready pool is immediately smaller than the headline fleet size. Now introduce sustained sorties, accelerated engine wear, and contested supply routes. The F-35's engine, the F-135, has faced durability and depot backlog challenges as fleet size has grown. Engine modules require specialized maintenance capacity, and global depot throughput has struggled at times to keep pace with operational demand. The aircraft also relies on a centralized logistics and data backbone. The transition from ALIS to Odin was intended to improve reliability and responsiveness, but it reinforces a structural feature of the program. Logistics data, software baselines, and parts management are tightly integrated across operators. Integration is a strength in peacetime interoperability. Under prolonged stress, it can become synchronized vulnerability. The F-35 was engineered around several implicit assumptions: that attrition would be limited by stealth and information dominance, that early suppression of enemy air defenses would reduce long-term exposure, that industrial replenishment would operate outside the tempo of active combat. A 6-month war challenges all three. It asks a different question, not whether the F-35 can dominate in the opening phase, but whether a highly integrated, high-cost, maintenance-intensive system retains sortie generation capacity when losses, wear, and logistics friction accumulate simultaneously. The aircraft's appearance signals technological superiority. Its endurance depends on industrial elasticity, and those are not the same variable. If a 6-month war becomes a test of arithmetic, the first variable is production. At peak stability, annual output has approached roughly 140 to 156 aircraft. That translates to about a dozen aircraft per month under normal industrial conditions. This is not a surge model. It is a steady-state, high-precision manufacturing rhythm distributed across the United States, Italy, and Japan, supported by more than 1,000 suppliers. That production tempo reflects design philosophy. The F-35 concentrates capability into each airframe. Advanced composites, stealth coatings, complex avionics, and tightly integrated mission systems demand time, tooling, and specialized labor. This is not a platform designed for rapid wartime mass production. It is optimized for quality density, not numerical surge. Now, introduce attrition. Even single-digit monthly losses across a large theater begin to intersect with production ceilings. If replacement averages roughly 12 to 13 aircraft per month globally, sustained losses near or above that number would gradually compress the available fleet. Production is global. Attrition would likely be regional and immediate. This creates asymmetry. Losses occur at combat tempo, replacement arrives at industrial tempo, and industrial tempo is slower. The second variable is readiness. Mission-capable rates for the U.S. fleet have historically fluctuated around the mid-50% range, with targets set closer to 65%. Even before combat stress, nearly half of the inventory can be unavailable due to maintenance, parts delays, or upgrade cycles. Take a global fleet approaching 1,000 aircraft. At a 55% readiness rate, the immediately available pool is closer to 500 to 600. That is before factoring combat damage, accelerated wear, and contested supply lines. In prolonged conflict, readiness does not remain constant. Maintenance hours per flight hour, often reported in the range of 20 to 30 or more, accumulate rapidly under high sortie rates. If an aircraft flies multiple missions per day in the opening weeks, maintenance demand compounds. Ground crews become a limiting resource. Spare parts pools tighten. Cannibalization becomes tempting. Sortie generation becomes the real currency of air power. An aircraft that exists on paper but cannot generate sorties in week 16 contributes little to sustained combat effect. The third variable is engine throughput. The F-135 engine has faced durability pressures and depot backlog challenges as the fleet expanded. Engine modules require specialized repair facilities. Depot capacity has at times struggled to keep pace even in peacetime growth conditions. In a 6-month war, engine wear accelerates. High thrust cycles, hot environments, and sustained operational tempo increase maintenance frequency. If engines enter depot queues faster than they exit, grounded aircraft accumulate. This creates a pacing mechanism, not stealth, not pilot skill, engine overhaul throughput. Air campaigns can only move as fast as their slowest sustainment node. The fourth variable is cost elasticity. With flyaway costs in the range of $80 to over $100 million per aircraft, depending on variant, each loss represents significant capital density. Lifetime sustainment projections in the trillion-dollar range reflect how financially integrated the platform is into long-term defense planning. High capability density reduces the number of aircraft required to achieve certain mission sets, but it also raises the replacement threshold. If losses rise, replenishment requires not only industrial capacity, but fiscal reallocation. Some Allied operators may replace aircraft quickly, others may face budgetary friction. Burden sharing shifts from political alignment to financial endurance. Over time, disparity in replacement speed can alter alliance air power balance. The fifth variable is centralized sustainment architecture. The transition from Alice to Odin was intended to improve logistics responsiveness and data integration, but the F-35 ecosystem remains highly centralized in software baselines, parts management, and upgrade sequencing across operators. In peacetime, this enables interoperability. In prolonged conflict, simultaneous demand spikes across multiple theaters could stress shared pools. If European and Indo-Pacific operators require high sortie rates concurrently, spare part allocation becomes strategic. Centralization creates efficiency, but it also synchronizes strain. Finally, consider historical contrast. During the Second World War, industrial mobilization models produced aircraft in the thousands per month. Modern stealth aircraft are produced in the hundreds per year. This is not a weakness, it is a structural shift toward technological concentration, but it changes the math. Modern air power trades numerical mass for information dominance. That trade performs exceptionally in short, decisive phases. In prolonged war, it transfers pressure from the battlefield to the factory floor. The cumulative effect of these variables is not immediate collapse, it is gradual compression. Production ceilings intersect with attrition curves, maintenance hours intersect with sortie ambition, engine depots intersect with operational tempo, cost density intersects with fiscal resilience, centralized logistics intersects with alliance simultaneity. None of these variables alone breaks the system. Together, over 6 months, they define its outer limit.
So, can the F-35 sustain a 6-month war? The answer depends on what we mean by sustain. If sustain means surviving inside contested airspace during the opening phase, the aircraft was built precisely for that role. Its stealth profile reduces detection range. Its sensor fusion compresses decision time. Its network integration amplifies joint force awareness. But survivability in week 1 does not guarantee sustainability in month 5. A fleet of roughly 1,000 aircraft sounds deep. An annual production rate of roughly 150 sounds substantial. A global alliance architecture sounds resilient. Yet arithmetic narrows those numbers quickly. At mission-capable rates around the mid-50% range, the effective available fleet is immediately smaller than headline inventory. Add combat damage, accelerated engine wear, and rising maintenance hours per flight hour, and sortie generation becomes the governing variable. Production, at roughly a dozen aircraft per month under normal conditions, does not automatically outpace steady attrition. Engine depots that have struggled to keep up with peacetime growth would face intensified pressure under sustained high-tempo operations. Centralized logistics systems designed for efficiency would experience synchronized demand spikes across multiple operators. None of this implies fragility. It implies constraint. The F-35 is not structurally weak, it is structurally dense. High capability density per aircraft allows fewer platforms to achieve greater effect, but density also concentrates cost, maintenance complexity, and industrial dependency into each unit. When a dense system absorbs loss, the recovery requirement is proportionally heavy. In a short war, density is decisive. In a long war, elasticity is decisive. Elasticity means the ability to replace aircraft at or above the rate of loss. Elasticity means maintaining engine overhaul throughput under stress. Elasticity means sustaining 60% readiness instead of sliding toward 40%. Elasticity means absorbing simultaneous demand across allied theaters without internal competition for parts. The F-35's performance advantage is front-loaded. Its sustainability advantage, if it exists, depends less on stealth and more on whether its industrial ecosystem can stretch without tearing. For planners designing long-duration air campaigns, the relevant question is not whether the aircraft can win air superiority in the first month. It is whether sortie generation curves remain stable as maintenance curves steepen. Because in prolonged war, readiness is strategy.
There is a quiet assumption embedded in modern air power discussions that technological superiority, once achieved, sustains itself. The F-35 challenges that assumption, not because it lacks capability, but because it concentrates capability so intensely that sustainability becomes inseparable from industry. In a 6-month war, the decisive variable may not be radar cross-section or sensor range, it may be replacement cycle time. Roughly 140 to 156 aircraft per year defines the outer boundary of replenishment under stable conditions. Mission-capable rates in the mid-50% range define the realistic starting pool. Maintenance hours measured in the dozens per flight hour define labor intensity. Engine depot backlogs define pacing constraints. High unit cost defines fiscal friction. Centralized logistics defines synchronized strain across allies. Individually, each figure is manageable. Collectively, over time, they form a ceiling. And ceilings matter in wars measured in months, because prolonged conflict does not usually destroy advanced systems all at once. It compresses them gradually. A few additional aircraft waiting on engine modules, a few percentage points lost in readiness, a few months of production slowed by upgrade bottlenecks, a few allied operators hesitating on rapid replacement due to cost pressure. None of these events makes headlines, but together they shift the balance between dominance and endurance. The F-35 represents the apex of capability concentration in modern tactical aviation, but prolonged war rewards something slightly different: capability distribution supported by elastic production. In short wars, information dominance offsets numerical limits. In long wars, numbers reassert themselves, not as raw mass, but as sustained availability. If attrition remains below production, the system stabilizes. If attrition approaches production, the system tightens. If attrition exceeds production for sustained periods, the system contracts. That is not a criticism, it is a structural reality. A 6-month war would not simply test the F-35's stealth, it would test whether advanced industrial societies can maintain high-end combat systems at tempo without sliding into readiness erosion. The aircraft's true vulnerability, if one exists, is not technological inferiority, it is industrial rigidity, and rigidity only becomes visible under time.
A 6-month war does not ask whether an aircraft is impressive. It asks whether a system is durable. The F-35 may remain one of the most capable tactical aircraft ever built. Its stealth, sensors, and network integration reshape the opening phase of high-end conflict. But prolonged war shifts the spotlight. From cockpit technology to engine depots, from radar cross-section to mission-capable rates, from software upgrades to monthly production ceilings. For alliances calculating sustainment rather than deterrence, for planners designing campaigns measured in months instead of days, the critical question is no longer who has the most advanced aircraft, it is who can keep them flying. So the real debate is not whether the F-35 can win a fight, it is whether the industrial architecture behind it can absorb pressure without gradual erosion. Because in modern warfare, strength is not only what strikes first, it is what still operates when the calendar turns to month 6. And that is a different kind of power.